Wow.
I mean, is there a better way to start any show in the history of the world?
Where did that come from?
That's amazing.
We've got our own.
It's our own sting, and a musician by the name of Nick Anderson, who's been on the podcast before, is just one of these guys who is just an absolutely brilliantly talented mind, and still one of my favourite singers of all time. This guy, he's unbelievable. Check him out on Instagram, Nick Anderson. But what do you think? We're away. We've got our own theme song.
Yeah, mate. I've had that on high rotation in the Peek household. It's been on a loop. I mean, the song kind of is on a loop, but that's why it works, and it's high rotation in my household to get me through this lockdown. Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely, Nick. Well done. And I have had several of my children walk around the house going, so I think it's working. I think it's great. So
I'm in the shower and I'm those humans. Yeah. I'm there. We've got a hit. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Nick, and welcome everybody to Humans in 30-ish. I'm Luke McCredden. Matt Peek is here as always, and if you're new to the podcast, welcome. And this is episode 4 of this format. We're having a fun time, Matt. So basically, each of us bring a couple of topics to the table. We don't know what we're bringing to the table, and we just break it down and have a chat about it. Matt, it's been fun so far.
It has, and I keep harping on your name, McCredden. I wanted to sort of open with, but the timing didn't work. But I'm going to need your badge, McCredden. and then I thought the villain, the South African businessman who's really a drug dealer.
Right.
It's like, who's this cop? Who's this cop that's been taking all my drugs? McCredden. Bring me this McCredden.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was really bad. But I just just can't stop thinking about that name.
I think I'm working my way into one of your movies. But anyway.
Yeah. What a name.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Well, you're the host, so you go.
Yeah, no, I fired it up last week, so I'm throwing to you to open up the show, Matt. Give it to us. What do you got?
This I don't know how this popped into my head, but I've been living in Victoria, working remotely, and I haven't been in the office environment for some time. But someone said something recently about being a state representative, like a state champion. So I wanted to talk about the people that in their adult life, like especially in the work environment that I've come across, there's been so many people that have said that they're a state champion at track or netball. Like there's so many state, and the reality is 95% of the population don't make sport or aren't able to be professional athletes to earn money. So it's a very small percentage. But we all as adults can recall what we were good at. And there just seems to be a little trend that I've spotted the last few years. There's a lot of people who are state.
Yeah, right.
But a guy in my previous work, he told me he was used to be in the state fencing team.
We have a state fencing team.
I can't verify that. Right? Has this been? Have you come across this behaviour that?
Yeah. Look, I don't. Not that I can recall off the top of my head. I definitely heard it. So I guess maybe the answer is yes. But I don't feel like it. I haven't noticed it becoming a trend. But I think you touched on something just there that there is something that. Because everything is searchable and researchable these days, one of the things that I've noticed that people, when they find something that's a bit, might be a bit left of center, they can then claim to be something there because it's sort of no one can really verify it and research it. Like, I don't know, or even something like fishing. You could claim to be the greatest fisherman and you've caught this and that. There's actually no way of finding out if you are or who is the greatest at that particular thing because it's just a pastime. It's a hobby. It's not a a sport as such in terms of records being kept through the years.
But there's a lot of people who it's always in that junior period where I was a representative or state in this.
Yeah.
Were you state anything? Were you like regionals or state anything?
No, I don't think so. No, not state. No, I was never at that level.
Did you ever tell people you were?
No. No.
Yeah.
No.
So I was in the development squad for Victorian baseball, but I was never in the state squad. Like I had friends who were like a little bit better than me who deserved to be there.
Yeah.
But I was always caught between. I'm only in the state development squad. Would I tell people now that I was state Vic?
Yep.
Or just in the development squad?
No.
What do you think?
Own it. State. Yep.
Wow. Okay. So I'm becoming one of those because back when I was in high school though,
yeah,
if like it was always about more martial arts because they were like the intimidating dudes in the yard. So it's like, oh, state champion kickboxer. No, state champion. Stay away from him. You know, we had these guys who would roam the school who were like, there was a Greek guy, a Polish guy, and a Serb, and you'd think they were like kickboxers or state, but they weren't. They just tell you who was a state champion. And there'd be this myth around school, he's state champion this, state champion that. I just think it's a strange phenomenon that is there with adults now about being state champion.
Is it impressive though? I mean, it is impressive, but is it if the people just sort of freely sort of laying that out on you, do you sort of stand back and go, oh wow, you know, that's amazing, or are you like, eh?
Well, it is impressive because you can't prove it not to be. You know, I mean, that's why it's such a good story to tell in the office.
So no
anyway,
one, so no one could verify your position in baseball.
Not really. No, not with the record keeping back then. I mean, it was pre-internet. So I could say I was state anything. This is the problem.
So people in their 30s are in the perfect position to claim to be state something. State
track, state fencing, state pole vault, state karate.
Hey, my dad was the this is the only state level in my family from memory, but my dad was the Victorian primary school basketball coach. You know, that's state level. He coached the Victorian primary school teams.
Yeah, I mean, that's not that impressive. I mean, it's a volunteer job, and
I don't think it paid.
You know, but good on him. You know, that's not the example I was looking for. But anyway,
that's all I've got. I'd love to say,
okay.
I'd really love to hit you with something like, well, actually, Matt, now that you ask, I was at state level for pole vault, but I don't have that. I'm sorry.
Well, you're not a wanker, so you're all credit to you.
Okay. Yeah, okay. It's interesting. I think I'll be probably listening out for it now.
Yeah, just listen out for it in the workplace.
Yeah, good. Matt, remind me, you are a vegetarian, yes? No? Pescatarian. Okay, yeah. Right.
So,
I mean, where are you positioned with... I'm just going to dive right in here. Where are you positioned with coriander?
Oh, I've in the last maybe 6 months, I've really been swayed to get one-way ticket on the coriander train. It's just absolutely.
So you're pro. Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah.
I think there's a real and I've sort of labelled it in my mind. It's the great food divide because I feel like, and I know there is a strong presence of people that are really pro coriander and appreciate what it's for, and love that zesty, citrusy, zingy sort of thing that it does to food, and that's great. But then on the flip side, there's not just sort of anti or like people that don't quite like it. It's a flat out hatred. It's a real hate for everything and anything to do with it. You hear things about people, talking about it like it tastes like dish soap, and it has the power to ruin any dish at any given moment. And I just feel like I was interested to know what side of the boat you're leaning over, and that's interesting that you're pro. I'm certainly anti. I've got a real issue with it.
Yeah, look. I look at a basil, and a basil is. I guess you've got to liken them to personalities, and let's say news readers, or like Basil is just such a likable. It's like Peter Hitchener, like just such a likable, and works if it's serious. Then serious news, or if it's light, it's really fun. Basil, that's Basil, right? but Coriander is kind of delivering a bit more intensity.
Yeah.
You know, it's more your Sky sort of, maybe a bit, you know, it's kind of, Coriander it knows what it is. And sure, that means it may not cross over as much as a basil or a basil. But then you have parsley, which parsley's like really old school, but parsley's like really sturdy. It's quite diverse, but it's very complementary.
Yeah.
I see the commentary around coriander, but I'd probably say that it's totally, people are overthinking coriander, and they should just accept coriander for what it is and what it isn't. And maybe what it isn't could become what it is. Break that down.
I don't know if I want to unpack that much further, but I do have a thought.
It's been unpacked. It's been unpacked.
Okay,
mate.
well, I've got a thought for all the people on the, all the haters and all the lovers and everyone in between, which are restaurants and also dinner party hosts. Here's my thought. I think that maybe coriander should only be added to any dish upon request. I just feel like that will sort out any complaints and any issues.
I think that's a terrible idea. I think again, it's about like you're coming at it. There's an unconscious bias you have to coriander, and it's something you need to deal with. You know, you're looking at it subjectively.
Yeah,
coriander should be free. You should set it free, and it'll find its relevant place in the world. But don't judge it before you add it. Okay.
All right.
I'm passionate about this.
You really are, and I've got nothing else to add. So it's all yours, my friend.
Oh well, a good one. I'm actually. This is going to get quite dark quite quickly.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. It's quite a cathartic series that we're involved in, you know, and a lot of it is about childhood, but this is sort of, you know, not preteen, it was sort of during teen. Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to hear you out first before I give my piece on Jar Jar.
Well, there's a lot of Star Wars, and like I'm a big Star Wars fan. I grew up in the 80s. I was around when it was magical, right? You know, the first three, and the hype for the 90s. You know, the first one was the Phantom Menace. I would liken the introduction of Jar Jar Binks to when Franz Ferdinand was assassinated in World War I by the Serbian rebels. Okay. And it set off a chain reaction that essentially could really, where we are now, World War I, World War II. This has been, the introduction of Jar Jar has seen the deterioration and the destruction of the Star Wars franchise. And it's never recovered, and I've never really addressed it. Like, what was he? What purpose did that character serve? Nothing. He was like a degenerate on the street, like an ice addict who would push the trolley, but friendly, like a friendly degenerate drug addict, but would just comment and say random stuff, but served no purpose and totally ruined the Star Wars franchise.
So have you written it off? Is Jar Jar Binks completely written off the franchise for you in its entirety? So all 9 now.
All 9.
Wow.
All 9.
That's powerful. And look, I don't think you're alone. I think, you know, there's been a big sort of question on Jar Jar's head for millions of people around the world.
Billions.
Billions. He didn't have that big of a negative impact on my life. I certainly understand the question you raise about what is he and what is his purpose. I feel like I do feel like he played a much more larger role than was necessary. I don't necessarily hate the character.
Exactly,
but I don't think he needed to become a star of the show. That was certainly a weird one.
It makes a lot of sense though, doesn't it? Right? Why would he sell the franchise? He knew he cooked it. He knew he fucked it. Yeah. So he sold it to Disney and said, I'm really deep down. He's like, I've fucked this. I've torched this whole franchise. because it took it from this magical thing that he came up with when he was young. And like Meatloaf, right? Meatloaf has some amazing songs and like just classic Paradise by the Dashboard Light. I would do anything for love. Took the words right out of my mouth. Like, but at the grand final, 2010, no. So same thing with Lucas. He's come back. He's done a Meatloaf. He's introduced Jar Jar. And I tell you, if Jar Jar Binks comes back into the Mandalorian series, I will storm Skywalker Ranch.
On a speeder bike.
I know people are hearing me, and I know I can hear them listening, even though they'll listen after when it's released. It's not live, but I know they're behind this. It's never been addressed.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. No. Look, I'm with you, but probably not on as a serious level as you are. But I totally understand it, and I think it's a really interesting one to bring up. So thank you.
I mean, but take some responsibility for your franchise. Like seriously.
The millions of dollars still rolled in, mate. I don't think he gives too much of a shit, to be honest.
Yeah, well, he sold it, so that's clear because he turned it to shit.
Okay.
Anyway.
No, good. I guess moving away from that slightly, I wanted to finish on a topic that's interesting, and I'm sure. Well, actually, I don't know what level you're at with this one either, but I know you'd be well aware of it. And what I'm talking about is TikTok. Personally, I'm not on the platform and I've never used it. I've obviously seen it, and it's impossible not to see bits and pieces of what it's about. But with a 10-year-old daughter who finds it quite amusing and does all sorts of dances along with it, it's put a question mark on it for me about who the target audience is, because there's also a lot of people in their 30s, 40s and beyond embracing it too. And the reason I bring it up is I guess, and I want to hear your thoughts on this one. If it's aimed at kids, I think it's gone about it the wrong way. And if it's aimed at adults, it's a weird thing to be. I don't know. I'm really confused with it. What's your take on TikTok?
Well, there's the public discussion, which is it's caught fire pretty quickly, and it's from the heart of Beijing, so it's got a pretty serious machine behind it, and obviously with the state of the world, it's a private company in Beijing that's has all that data. So clearly, we're not sure of the responsibility or the checks and balances that's going on there. That's probably a concern. But with that said, it's taken off because it's taken off. There was a need for it in some capacity. I too have a young daughter, 10-year-old daughter, but if I look at it responsibly and I make the account private, but it does set off some creativity with the young ones that I think is really fun and interesting. So like the experiences that people are having with their families with the platform, especially during the situation we're in, they're memories that you can keep, and you're getting dads and mums dancing and siblings dancing. So it's creating these quite free-flowing experiences, but the public, impact and effect, of that obviously needs to be monitored. But, everything in hindsight, once it becomes a big thing, there's more eyes on it, and there's a lot of creeps out there. Yeah. There's a lot of creeps, a lot of peds that are just having a good time on it, and that's what we've got to make sure that there is some sort of legislation eventually on all of this stuff.
Yeah, interestingly,
like there is with liquor or cigarettes or drugs, like let's legislate the stuff.
Interestingly enough, you talk about Beijing and TikTok did originate in China. The interesting part about that is China itself has a strict ban on all social media across the country, whether it's Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, or I think even Google for the most part. I found that quite interesting too. It leads me to one final thought, I suppose, on that is...
Well, that's the art of war, my friend.
Yeah, well, that's what it's coming down to.
Yeah.
Yeah. My final thought on that, and when you just turned onto there are creeps and there needs to be some sort of control over that. I wonder, do you think that there'll ever be that sort of government power that can completely shut down a social media platform like they do in China here in Australia?
Yeah, I think it's possible. If it's influencing a democracy, it's absolutely possible. A democracy shouldn't be influenced by a private company. And a good thing about Australia is you would think that we would all see that coming, which is why it hopefully won't. But, hopefully there's other countries that can see it coming and it does happen. But yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, I know that was a bit of real talk, a bit of serious stuff to round things out, but just a bit of a thinker, that one. Oh, yeah.
Look, it's very topical. It's a concern, but we're all on it in one way, shape, or form. But the reality of its use with good people, with people that are wary of it, but let your kids be who they are in this age. The curtain doesn't always match the drapes. Sorry, the carpet doesn't always match the drapes. You know what I'm saying? I don't know whether that's the right analogy, but yeah, the media, it's a beat up, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good. Look, we're reaching 30ish.
Wow.
We're reaching 30ish, and just to finish with, I did want to say too, during the week on Humans Podcast Instagram page, we did a bit of a shout out because we discovered there's a bit of a Texan following Matt, and so I thought let's put it out there. If these people in Dallas that are listening, I'd love to get some sort of interaction. Maybe just shoot us a message on Instagram or whatever it may be. Wouldn't it be great to see our friends in Dallas?
Yeah, I'm sure they'd have some thoughts on Jar Jar Binks.
Absolutely. Coriander, probably.
Oh, they're probably not into coriander. But no, we'd love to hear from them, or anywhere around the globe, wherever you are. We're here.
Absolutely, we are.
Yeah.
And please come and check out humans_podcast on Instagram. Subscribe to this podcast wherever you get them. And hello again, and a big thank you to our friend Nick Anderson, because, Matt, here's what we're rounding out the show with, my friend. You feel that?
Just close your eyes.
We'll be back for another episode. We will be back.
Beautiful.